Boom, we are live. Betting Bananas for UFC 318 is here. We got a crazy weekend of fights when it comes to this UFC card. The BMF title is on the line, and we got the swan song for Dustin Poirier, who's taking on Max Holloway in his final fight of his career, which should be absolutely a fun one to watch here. But on top of that, we really have a lot of fun fights on this card. I mean, we got Paulo Costa, social media king. We got Kevin Holland, Dan Ige versus Pitbull. Zell Huber's on the card. We got, honestly, a really deep card when you just look all the way down through it, top through and through. So we're going to get into what you should be betting on, what you should be staying away from, and just some of the picks looking at this card. Now, obviously, I don't have my two main guys, Dave Van Auken and Mr. Raphael is not with me tonight. They had prior engagements, which we all have, life happens. So make sure for this show to be a fun one, join in on the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are on some of these fights. We'll start off with the first prelim of the night, Carly Judice versus Nicole Cagliari. Judice coming in as the favorite. We're looking at about minus 260, with Cagliari coming in with plus 215 odds. If we look at UFC here on the best fight odds, where are we looking at? Here we are. We got UFC coming up. Oh, they don't have all of them just yet. So we'll use this one for now. So yeah, we're looking at minus 260 or plus 215. Path of victory for Judice. She's going to want to keep it standing. Has pretty good takedown defense when it comes down to it. You does pretty good striking when it comes for her side of things. Cagliari is going to want to take it to the ground. If she's able to do so, I feel like Judice has the opportunity to get back up. She works back up to her feet pretty well in the fight. So with this one, I'm going to say Carly Judice takes the win in this one. I think that her takedown defense and her ability to scramble and get back to her feet is going to be what gets her the win here tonight. And, you know, it isn't a Fight Banana show without Mr. Sean Sterling. So appreciate you joining, my man. I'm doing wonderful as always. How you doing here tonight? Hope you're doing well on that side of things. But yeah, we're running solo here tonight. Did a little bit of homework on this card. So got a little bit of nuggets on how we can look at this one. But yeah, looking at Judice, looking at her last, couple of fights, all of her wins coming really by TKOs. So, I mean, if you're liking Judice on this fight and you want to sprinkle a little something on it, maybe you take the TKO prop with her if you think she gets the win. For Cagliari, 8-3. How have those 3 win losses come? So 2 losses by sub or by decision, 1 loss by sub. Hasn't been stopped by TKO before, so that is something that maybe holds you back from taking that bet. But I am going to take Carly Judice in that first fight. Although women's MMA, not something, unless you're very comfortable, that you bet unless it's a higher level. This one, a lot easier. We got Bruno Ferreira taking on Jackson McVeigh. Very big odds on this one. You got minus 645 coming back for Bruno Ferreira, and you're looking at plus 450 coming back on McVeigh. If you, LNG we're loving on Judice. So yeah, I'm really solid on her as well. I think she's pretty solid. She's got some solid wins, showed strong outings even in some of her losses as well. So that's why I'm leaning with her. I'm not sure if I pick her by decision or by stoppage. That's my main gripe, but I do think that she does get that dub here, or dub on Saturday. But for the Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh, this is his UFC debut for him. He was supposed to fight Cedric Dumas, but that fight ended up getting canceled. Bruno Ferreira coming in, huge favorite in this fight. And honestly, I mean, historically, not someone that, is on a crazy streak or anything like that. I think it's just the matchup and what everybody sees. I mean, Ferreira is a guy that hits like a tank. He moves in bursts, right? So you'll see him kind of stop for a little bit and then boom, overhand right, left hook, one of his favorite combinations. He does switch back and forth between a lot of his stances. So you see that happening a lot in his fights. And for Jackson McVeigh, I think for him, it's just he's coming in with no UFC experience, 6-0, just very little experience overall. Of course, he has that flawless record, but Bruno Ferreira, someone that has really good experience, really good power as well. So I do think some of that power gets through. I do think Bruno Ferreira gets this done, and I would sprinkle in the stoppage. I'm going to take before the distance for that one as well. So give me Bruno Ferreira. Give me stoppage victory inside the distance for him for that one. Looking at the next one, we have Ryan Spann versus Lucas Bresky. In this one, we got minus 230 for Spann. You're getting plus 190 on Bretsky. No surprise here on this one. I mean, both guys 1-4 in their last five. Bresky, not as well rounded. He has decent kicks, but for Spann, I think he's just a little more well rounded. He's got a solid jab. Obviously, he took out Dominic Reyes with the jab alone. Solid submission game. Was looked at someone who was potentially 5 years ago one of the up and comers for this division. That was a bright prospect, but he did take a quite a few of those losses. And I think this fight overall, though, I think Spann gets it done inside the distance as well. I mean, if you look at Bresky and his last couple of losses, ground and pound, punches, hooks, and then a couple of decisions. But, I mean, he's taken 3 with 2 straight when it comes to TKO losses. I like Spann getting a finish somewhere in this fight. So give me Ryan Spann in this one. Give me inside the distance. You're looking at minus 230 for just straight up Ryan Spann. So you should be able to get some better odds with him inside the distance for that one. I'm trying to see if we got any odds for that UFC there, but nothing on there. No sweat. We're running this solo, so we do what we got to do. Loser is gone, but if it's a crappy decision, both are gone. For Spann versus Bresky, yeah, I can see that happening. Honestly, both guys have really underwhelmed. For me, Spann more so just because I expected a little more out of him. But yeah, I definitely think Spann gets the job done. Now we have Jimmy Crute with one of my favorite Avatar: The Last Airbender tattoos. He's got the little earthbender thing here against Marcin Prachnio in this fight. Now, Prachnio, he was, really solid kicks on that one. He's got that karate type style, unique fight style. For Jimmy Crute, another one, right? For me, really, I thought coming in just a couple years ago, if we look at this Jimmy Crute record, he's 12-4 with 2 of his last 3 fights actually ending in a draw, which that is some shitty record for Jimmy Crute there. But, if you look at his early career, 2019, 2018, even into 2020, I mean, the dude was looking really solid. 11-1 win over Sam Alvey, Paul Craig, Michael Olajaychuk, Baskauskas, which at the time, obviously these names are a little different 5 years later, but at the time, those were solid names. So, he did take on Anthony Smith. I believe it was an ACL tear, or I can't remember the exact injury, but as you could tell, really never has been the same with that. So he is taking a step down versus Marcin Prachnio in this fight. Obviously, Jamal Hill, Menafield a couple times, and Balado, those are a couple steps up from Prachnio. I think if Jimmy Crute's able to get this fight down into the ground, exactly, Sean, you got it right there. Jimmy Crute by sub with this one too. So last couple of fights, if you look at what we have here, you have Bruno Ferreira, Ryan Spann, Jimmy Crute. Parlays, if you really look at the mathematics, they end up costing you more in the long run. So I usually like doing straight up bets with those. But I mean, if you just want to do inside the distance for a couple of those fights and pair 2 out of the 3, or even just go with the long shot, pair those 3, I do feel these 3 fights have a high likelihood of ending before the distance there. So I'm liking all the favorites, to be honest, with those cards. I think they have the odds right with that one. But now Adam Fugit versus Islam Dulatov. I do believe Dulatov, most of his 11 finishes have come in the first round. Round one. He did do a boxing fight. Interesting there. Did not know that. So did just take a note of that. But yeah, almost all of his fights finished in round 1. So this is one of those potential fights where, because I know the odds on this one are pretty crazy. I do believe, you're looking at minus 625, pretty much just as crazy as the odds that we saw with the Bruno Ferreira fight. But like you could see, I mean, he's starching dudes in the first round. So, I mean, even if you want to go with, Dulatov, it is his UFC debut. If I saw correctly, I do believe he is making, yeah, he got his Contender Series win with the elbows, but it is his actual UFC debut. But, if you want to take Dulatov with under round 1.5 rounds, I definitely think that's a solid prop there. But also another live betting prop is if this fight does go into the third round and we start seeing Dulatov start to weather a little bit and that gas tank seem to wear out and, you see Adam Fugit and he's starting to pick up, maybe there's a live betting line there, where you've kind of picked Fugit if that third round comes live and we start seeing some shades of, um, you know, gas tank wear for Dulatov with that one. So I would take Dulatov to be a buck with you. I didn't get to do too much film study. I mean, how many fights are there? There's 14 fights. So yeah, 14, 28 fighters to do film review on. It's a little bit a lot. So definitely didn't get to check that one. Didn't get to see too much of this one either. Gaudier versus Valentin. I did do some homework as far as other people's research, but on my own personal research, haven't seen too much with that. Obviously, we got another heavy favorite versus heavy underdog here. Just looking at straight up the numbers, I know Gaudier, listening to some of the homework, if he gets taken down, maybe that's the route of victory for his opponent there. But I mean, the man is starching people, 6 knockout wins and out of his last, yeah, all 6 of his last fights essentially have ended by knockout in the first round. Yeah. So, I mean, the man, or second round with this one here. So the dude has got knockout power there too. I mean, if you're going to straight bet this one, just looking at the numbers, no film study. So this is, like I said, it's a shot in the dark. That's one that I probably end up doing before stoppage as well. Now, Varennikov versus Francisco Prado. This is a fun one that I'm excited for because I feel like for Francisco, he's gotten a lot of tough matchups, man. I mean, you look at his last one against, I believe it was the other guy fighting on this card. No, he fought Zellhuber a couple fights ago, but Jake Matthews, no easy fight with that one. Biz Abe asking, do I watch boxing? I do watch a solid amount of boxing. I'm not as well versed as, our other guys, John Radford, and, we got Ray, we got Johan, we got a couple really smart boxing guys. So I watch boxing. As far as analytics, there's a couple guys that do have some more knowledge on that side of things, but I do follow a little bit, caught a little bit of that Serrano versus Katie Taylor last week as well. So I'm excited for the Canelo versus Crawford fight. That one's going to be just a couple weeks before my birthday. So excited. Canelo typically does something in September, so that should be an exciting one. I know Tony Ferguson is in the Misfits boxing. They just announced Tony Ferguson's going to be boxing as well. So yeah, hopefully his brain cells are okay, man. Because I mean, I know Tony is one of those fighters that's highly beloved by the MMA community. So I think with that one there, and then we got Darren Till versus Luke Rockhold. That's the other fight as well that I saw with that. Yeah, Tony versus Ferguson versus Salt Poppy. Interesting. So yeah, a little bit of boxing biz. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you got, if you're not watching and liked or, follow and subscribe, all that type of stuff, make sure you do so already, my man. Appreciate you tuning in. But yeah, getting into back to Francisco Prado, tough couple of last outings, obviously, like we said with Zellhuber, dude is an absolute stud. He's going to be fighting on the main card here tonight. Jake Matthews, another guy that's, to me, has that type, in my opinion, he has that Charles Oliveira slash John Blachowicz type career resurgence that we might see from him, because he's been around for a long time. I mean, you look at Jake Matthews, the dude has been fighting in the UFC since 2014, over 11 years at this point. He started off at 7-0 with the UFC, and he is now 21-7. So he's put on 21 fights in the UFC alone. He's been here for a while. If he starts putting some wins together, maybe we can see him start making an actual run. The dude's still young too, early 30s. So enough about him, though. For Francisco, he has really good pressure. I mean, he's someone that will always be on the front foot, and even if he's not going to win the fight, he's going to be trying to go and do that. So I think with this fight, for Nicolay, it is a little bit tougher with him. It's one of those things where if you look at, one of the things that do play a factor, the age difference, 23, right, versus 35. So there is a big difference there with that when it comes down to it. I do think I lean Francisco in this fight. Like you see, it's a very slight there. But yeah, I would take Francisco in this one. Honestly, this is a fight that I probably would stay away from betting wise, though, Just being honest with that one. Now, getting into a fight that I too feel like is kind of low on the card, honestly. I mean, you got two ranked fighters, 13 versus 11. Don't quote me on the actual rankings on the UFC, but I mean, Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen is a fight that has a lot of implications, honestly. I mean, you got Brendan Allen, a guy that's fighting in his hometown in Louisiana, and Marvin Vettori, a guy who's fought for the belt, been at the top of the division, stayed there for a little while, but both guys coming off of two straight losses, and this one is really a tough one for me, honestly, too. This is a one fight that I honestly, if I'm gonna bet it, I probably would just bet the decision, right? I probably would just say, either guys full the distance for that one, but yeah, for Brendan Allen, he's a guy that started off with the submission game, added the striking later. Now he's kind of starting to mix it up a little bit, but still working on finding that success with that too. But for Marvin Vettori, two out of the last or three out of the last four, I should say, haven't gone his way. The last fight against Delize really just looked like he was, it was Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou. Really didn't do much or engage much for that one. But I do honestly feel like Vettori has the upset potential in this fight. I mean, he's looking at plus 185. And for Brendan Allen, I don't believe Marvin Vettori has been subbed before. Yeah, not zero losses by sub, zero losses by TKO or KO. I mean, the dude actually hasn't been finished before. And I mean, he's fought my favorite fighter, Adesanya. He wasn't able to finish him in two separate fights. I mean, you talk about Paulo Costa not being able to finish him. Different guys, Robert Whitaker, he actually, didn't get finished by either. So the dude has real staying power, and he's got that big blocky head that just lets him stay in fights, man. So I do think, just like Sean is, I am leaning towards Marvin Vettori. Now, Brendan is live. Obviously, he's the favorite in this fight. But I mean, if you look at it, only 4 out of his, what is that, 20 something wins, right, have come by decision. The rest of them have been finishes. So if this fight goes to a decision, I think Marvin is pretty live in that. So give me, if I'm going to bet this fight, I'm going to take Marvin Vettori. And just to add some extra odds, if you want to, give me by decision. I think he's out there. If he pumps that jab and he just stays moving, I think he can stay. He can win that fight, honestly. Now, this one, a little bit tougher for me personally. I'm curious your thoughts on it, Sean. But we got Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. Now, Vinicius Oliveira, as you probably know, the dude's been beating some real studs. I think Nurmagomedov Said Nurmagomedov was his last victory. Showed really good takedown defense in that fight. Ricky Simone, another guy who just has really good pressure, and he was able to withstand that as well. So, I mean, Vinicius, although he is a little bit older for being in the division, like, for this weight. Oh, no, never mind. 29. I was reading something else. So, yeah, I mean, he's 29. Dude is straight up. He's fine. Scratch that last statement. But, yeah, I mean, dude has been just solid, over his last one. I mean, his only loss since 2019 really is, that one loss at UAE Warriors, which, I mean, I'm not watching that. I'm not sure if you are, but, if you are, shout out to you if you were catching that on a daily live scene there. But, yeah, I mean, the dude hasn't lost since nearly 22, and he's got one loss, since 2019. So I'm leaning Vinicius Oliveira for the reason being with this, because I'm a big Kyler Phillips fan. If you watch Kyler Phillips long enough, you probably remember he was someone that was really looked at as the potential one of the next big things in the division. I mean, he had some sick knockouts early in his career. I mean, he's got a lot of really, I mean, his nickname says it all, really, the Matrix. He's got a lot of style and smoothness to his striking as well. But, I think after that first round, he does tend to start to burn out a little bit. So I do think that, especially if it goes past the first round, it doesn't favor Phillips as much. And even on top of that, Vinicius is a dog as well. He showed, like I said, really good staying power throughout all 3 rounds. So give me Vinicius Oliveira. Give me by TKO, man. I don't think any of these dudes are really going to try to wrestle that much. Oh, well, big shock there. I guess I'm not betting against anybody there. So a lot of people are going Oliveira. Most people are going by decision. I'm going to go by TKO, because I do think there will be some fights, some parts in this fight where both guys will just kind of say, like, screw it, let's just swing, let's go into it. So It's main card time, baby. Let's get into it. We got Daniel Zellhuber versus Michael Johnson. And one thing that I learned last week, and I was burned on this betting decision. If you have one fighter that's on the downswing of his career and one fighter on the upswing, Raphael, Dave, if you guys are both watching this, you know what I'm talking about. Bet the guy on the upswing, right? I was choosing on the crafty Calvin Cater to potentially get the win last weekend, but, didn't really live up to that. I thought, he had a route, didn't end up using that route. Honestly, was like stuck in cement, but this time I will choose correctly. We got Daniel Zellhuber versus Michael Johnson. Obviously, Michael Johnson, what more can be said about him? I mean, he's faced pretty much everyone that's been a champion. The dude's faced him, right? Or is at the top of the division. So, I mean, obviously, he's got a couple of solid wins. I mean, the last one was pretty crazy. Him versus Azaitar. It was pretty much the Max Holloway thing where both guys were swinging. Wasn't the last couple of seconds, I don't believe. Yeah, it was 2 minutes into the round, but yeah, he was ended up Johnson ended up getting the knockout before Azaitar. Sean Sterling saying he's going Johnson with the fraud check. I don't know, man. Zellhuber is a dog. Like, if you watched his last fight, which if you haven't watched his last fight, if you just want a really good fight to watch, this was a fight that was an absolute war. Zellhuber versus Esteban Rijovic. This was it at 300? No, it was at 306. But I do believe he fought at 300 as well with that. But yeah, Rijovic versus Zellhuber. I was just buffering there for a second. Sorry. Rijovic versus Zellhuber. Potential fight of the year candidate, honestly, with that one. I'm not sure how high that ranked, but yeah, that was UFC 306 fight of the night. Insane war with that one. And, honestly, the reason I'm leaning towards Zellhuber in this fight is because I've seen him get hurt and tagged a couple of times, and the dude will stay moving. Like, I've never seen, or very rarely have seen, someone that gets rocked as hard as Zellhuber has and still will move his head in various ways, avoiding a lot of those shots. So he has a lot of really good, just natural instinct in there, even when he's hurt. And on top of that, he is a little bit taller. I mean, he's working with a 4-inch range, a reach advantage with it too. And he's got a really good jab. He's got really quick kicks coming up the top. I mean, he's just a really fun fighter to watch. But on top of that, the boxing is nasty. He'll work the head, and then he'll go to the body as well. So I do think, I mean, obviously he can get Michael Johnson. He showed he's got the power still, right? So he can absolutely knock out Zellhuber. But I do think Zellhuber is gonna get the win here. I mean, no shock there. He's a minus 575 favorite. This is one that I do potentially stay away from, with, like you say, most people going with Zellhuber as well by TKO is the most predicted choice. But the reason I'd stay away from this, Michael Johnson, he's got heavy hands, man. And the amount of times that we've seen Michael Johnson knock dudes out that end up being, really good in the future is a plentiful amount of time. So I'm going to say Daniel Zellhuber. If I'm going to bet him, I'd probably bet him taking it with TKO, just because I know, Michael Johnson, he has a little bit of the wrestling. If he uses it, that's really the question. So yeah, give me Daniel Zellhuber, the younger athlete growing into his own, versus Michael Johnson, almost 40 years old with that one. So give me Daniel Zellhuber for that one. Then we got Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull, and not the same exact situation, but very similar, right? A guy that's on his way out in Patricio Pitbull versus Dan Ige, who is shown to still be able to do the damn thing. I mean, he won last time against Sean Woodson. Some people call it a questionable stoppage there, but it was still a very good performance by him. And it was against a very rangy fighter. And now he's going against someone, which I don't know how often Dan Ige has had this advantage, but he's 5'7", and he's got a 6-inch reach advantage against his opponent. And for Danny Ige, someone that's already has power, someone that has a great jab, if he can keep Pitbull on the end of that jab, that's the fight right there. Because I know Pitbull can wrestle. Obviously, he's got the championship pedigree. I mean, he's someone that I even chose to potentially beat Yair last time because I thought that wrestling was going to come into play. But I think for Dan Ige, he's still someone that's pretty much relatively in his prime, right? I mean, he just went Like I said, he had a great win against Woodson. Obviously, he lost versus Diego Lopez, who fought for the title. But I mean, the dude came in on like 2 hours notice. So I really don't count that one too much against him. So I think for Pitbull, it's one of those things you maybe hope to see the vintage performance from a guy like that, but I don't bet that anymore. I learned my lesson, right? So I wouldn't bet that anymore for Pitbull. Yeah, you might see just like how Kamaru Usman did against Buckley. Maybe he takes Dan Ige down, right? And he's able to do something on top and land some good strikes, use some of those leg kicks, right? Whatever he's able to do. But I don't think he's going to be able to do that. And if he does, I do think Dan Ige is able to even get up with a lot of that stuff. And he's got, in my opinion, at his age, a lot more power with what he's working with now. So give me Dan Ige, and I'm liking that line there. I don't think that's a terrible line. -180 isn't too bad, honestly, for Dan Ige with that one. Now we got Kevin Holland versus D-Rod. Kevin Holland, one of my favorite fighters. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Sean, talking about that Ige fight. Um, the jab is really money for Dan Ige. His boxing is really crisp, and he doesn't really kick a terrible amount. But I mean, if you have that range, you don't need to. He's already got the range on him, and he's usually the one that's the shorter fighter in the division. So this is going to be exciting to see with how he works with that. I'm actually curious before we look at this fight. What are the Tapology predictions looking like? Okay, so yeah, most people are going towards Ige as well. So I guess that is the popular choice with that one. So people are saying Dan Ige with that one. Now we got D-Rod versus Kevin Holland. Like I said, Kevin Holland, one of my favorite fighters. D-Rod, though, very fun fighter. I'm honestly a big fan of him. I think it was versus Mota. Did he fight Mota a while ago? Well, he fought Mike Perry. That was a really good fight. That's, one who showed me up there. The fight versus Jing Liang Li, or Li Jing Liang, was a good one too. Yeah, I mean, he's just had a couple of really good fights. The dude has power in his hands. But for Kevin Holland, I mean, 6'3" versus 6'1", you got about a 7-inch reach advantage there too. And he is also a little bit younger in this fight too. So yeah, not a lot of people have faith in D-Rod. I'm right there with you on that one. I'm not sure if it'll be by sub or by TKO, because with that range, I can just see if Kevin Holland gets into that groove, just popping him and catching him with one of the end of those punches, just kind of like what he did with Buckley as well. But give me Kevin Holland, and give me by stoppage. I do think he gets it done before. So I know you're looking at -410 on the decision right now. So give me him by stoppage. I think you get some better odds returning for that one. Co-main event, which, personally with this fight, I don't know if any of these guys are ranked. I'd have to double check that. But I mean, for this fight to be this high up, kind of is, it's a little questionable, because you got some really good fights. I mean, I'm not saying the fight excitement would be fun, but Vittori versus Brendan Allen has a lot more implications than Paulo Costa versus Kapilov, or even Kevin Holland, honestly. I mean, he could have been a great co-main event, or, something like that. But yeah, it's still interesting with that one there. Paulo Costa versus Kapilov. Costa, obviously, out of his last 5 fights, 4 of them he's lost, and then reverse for Kapilov. Kapilov, coming from the kickboxing background, he's got the really sharp strikes. And for Paulo Costa, obviously, like, I mean, he's got really good power for a guy that big. He's got a decent gas tank as well. Even if he gets tired, I mean, he'll still continue trying to throw punches there. I mean, my favorite fight for Paulo Costa, one of my favorite fights of all time, him versus Yoel Romero. So if you have never watched that one, that's a very exciting fight. Just entertaining. 2 entertainers going to war with that. One time I saw Yoel Romero in Mexico. Fun fact. But Paulo Costa versus Roman Kapilov. I think this one is relatively easy, honestly, to pick. I'm going to take Roman Kapilov with this one. Yeah, okay, so it's 13 versus 14. So that's my fault on this one. Appreciate you checking me with that one. But yeah, 13 versus 14, Kapilov versus Costa. Give me Roman Kapilov. I think that, the kickboxing background is going to serve him really well. Costa is a really good striker, but he's not a great striker, right? I mean, if you look at, he started off, I believe it was 13-0, and then fought Adesanya, and oh yeah, they actually put him here. I didn't actually realize that. Learn something every day. Anyways, but yeah, Adesanya, Strickland, Vittori, a couple of those fights, he just wasn't able to kind of get it going from there. Even with the Rockhold fight, he kind of finished that fight pretty weak. So, give me, take that what you want. The secret juice might come into play for Paulo Costa, but give me Kapilov, and the minus 275, that's a little high for me to personally bet on. But yeah, that's one there. Now, a fight that I am 100% not betting on because two of my favorite fighters will be fighting. And I also do think it's a very, like you see there, 115, 105, very, very close fight. Because, I mean, you have a guy that's coming off of a knockout loss and then a guy that's talking about the R word, retirement, So it's very tough with this one. Personally, I think Dustin overall is the better fighter. Um, I mean, he's got a little bit better on the ground game. If he takes Max down, that's another question, or if he's going to jump the Gilly. Um, Sean Sterling saying, he's going to take Costa. He didn't feel Kapilov looked great his last fight. That's a fair assessment, honestly, but how did Costa look his last fight too? You know what I mean? So it's also, he didn't look so hot against, obviously Sean Strickland's a solid fighter, but didn't look too hot against him either. But yeah, versus when it comes to Poirier versus Holloway, I do think Poirier is the better fighter in this one. I mean, he's got more power. He's got the jiu-jitsu. He's got the ground game as well, right? He doesn't use it that much. It's mostly defensive, but he does have it. Um, Now for Max Holloway, I mean, if you're watching this show, I mean, you don't not know about Max Holloway, right? He's got the volume, right? That's going to be on his side is that constant volume. I watched that first fight, which is about 6 years removed, or not the first fight, second fight between them for the interim title. Max started peppering Dustin up later in that fight. He did start getting him and later on, and that was 140, like true 145 Max Holloway. I think this Max Holloway that we're seeing now is a little bit bigger than the Max that we had then, and has a little more power as well too. Granted, he is coming off of a knockout loss too, so it's a little tough with that one. But if I had to make a choice, oh man, I'm still going back and forth looking at both these guys. I mean, give me Dustin Poirier, in this fight. I just think he is a little bit stronger. And he's got a little more power. And I mean, looking at his last fight, it was a loss versus Islam, but dude, the performance that guy put on versus Islam, he almost won that fight. I was even like shaking my head today thinking about it because it's like he was just so close to beating Islam Makhachev. And and like you said, man, it's um you hope Dustin wins. Sean Sterling saying, I hope Dustin wins mainly because it's his last at home and his last fight, but he thinks Max wins. That's fair, man. I mean, like you see, the odds are really close. I'm curious what Tapology thinks. Yeah, I mean, 59-41, you're not even looking at a 60-40 difference just yet. But a lot of people thinking it's going to go to the decision, which both guys, I mean, have been locked out by, in their last 5 fights. But, I mean, for Max, that was his first knockout. So we'll see how he recovers off of that, right? So that's a really good question, is how is Max Holloway going to recover after coming off of a knockout loss? So that's the interesting question, because we've never seen this. We've never had that question for Max. So it's going to be a fun one for that. But man, 33 minutes by myself. I did not think I was going to go this long. I know it was more of a picks show rather than a betting type of show, but I'm running solo here. Decided to do things a little bit differently. Got some good ones there. Like I said, just to run through everything all at once. For the fights that I am going to probably sprinkle some money on, let's start at the top. So let's go with Kevin Holland inside the distance. I'm going to go with Zell Huber inside the distance here. This fight right here, I'll probably go Vettori. Give me the underdog by decision. Give me Ryan Spann and Bruno Ferreira. Give me both those guys inside the distance. And if you want to pair those up, I'm not going to be upset at you. And then for the rest of them, I'll also, like I said, Judice, she probably gets the win inside the distance. I'm not comfortable betting that one. Jimmy Crute, he probably wins versus Prochnio. You probably can bet that one. But it's pretty solid odds there too. So maybe by the sub or inside the distance there. Dulatov, like I said, that's he's probably getting a first round. So if you want to look at him personally, like I said, I didn't do too much homework on it. But Dulatov inside a round and a half, almost all of his finishes have been within a round and a half. Same thing with Gaudier. Most of his wins have been inside that first round. So you can look at these two guys, maybe pair a little fun round and a half for both those fights, a little fun thing there. But yeah, lots of really fun fights on this card, honestly. I think this is a stacked card from top to bottom. Like, you really have just doing like an overall preview, like you have a very fun fight card. Like just the main card in itself, you have 5 fights, all of them can end in knockout. Like all of them have likely knockout potential. When like Dustin and Max, both those guys are going to be striking. That's a war. You have a kickboxer versus Paulo Costa. None of those guys are taking it down. Holland versus D-Rod. I mean, Holland might take it down and try to sub him, but he likes to strike. And honestly, it's not going to be unless D-Rod ends up, you know, getting knocked down, or if he goes for a bad and ill shot submission or a takedown, attempt where I see him really going for that. But Kevin Holland, potential knockout there. Ige versus Pitbull, obviously Ige 50K for a reason. That's another potential knockout. I mean, you're looking at a bunch of fights that you can get knockouts on. I mean, even like Gaudier, you're looking at Dulatov, you're looking at Crew probably gets a submission span. Can go either way with that one, but for Hera, I'm probably looking at another TKO as well. Dulatov, like I said earlier, even Judice, man. I mean, if you look at her for like last couple of wins, I mean, look at her wins. 4 wins by TKO. With her wins is 4-2, 4 wins by TKO. So, you have a lot of fun fights on this card, man. So, as Blake, you probably know. Oh, we lost Amanda Hebos versus Tabitha. Hi, Tabitha. Nice to meet you. Tabitha Richie. That kind of sucks, but yeah, shout out to Amanda Hebos for being herself. But we have an exciting main card. I'm not sure. Does anybody know, is Lil Wayne actually walking out Dustin Poirier? Because if so, that's pretty fire. That's my favorite artist of all time. So hopefully we see Lil Wayne walk out Dustin Poirier, man. That would be some fire. Give me, if you're watching, we got a couple people here watching live. Make sure you guys like, if you're not already subscribed, make sure you guys subscribe. We got Betting Bananas every Wednesday. We had the flyweight champion on the show yesterday with Dave Van Auken with a couple other UFC fighters as well. We have, post-fight shows. Me and Mr. Blake Schneiders is more than likely going to do a post-fight show this weekend. So definitely make sure you check that out. Sean Sterling confirming it. See, this is why we need you in the comments, man. You're always keeping us in check. Said the rumor of Lil Wayne walking out is true, potentially. So really excited to see if that actually happens there. But guys, we have a great card this weekend. I'm super excited. Make sure that if you guys are as well, like the video, subscribe, all that fun stuff. But from just myself, Jonathan Ramlakan, we will see you guys after Saturday night. We'll have some other shows. Dave's always got stuff going on. I think he might be doing a little bit of family time. Obviously, he's got the kiddos he's taking care of, and got basketball, got some 6U and 8U, and just won the championships with the Bloodline as well. A couple, I think, earlier this week. So he's doing his thing. Raphael obviously doing his thing as well. So just keep on with the channel. We got a full team here taking care of you. But until next time, we'll see you guys after the next